deal with me eventually. I've been moving the crowd since 17. Bones in my pedigree. I don't do money chasing a cheddar fiend. My chips be coming in quite steadily. I just let it be. Kick my feet up, lay on the roof like peanuts. It was written, now I'm the receiver of the gifts ahead of me. I better see not one of you clowns talking neither. Somebody gassed you for no reason. You need a better team. Maverick, they like Billy, chill, you too passionate. Your verses hit like church and purpose immaculate. Man carry his cross too well, they gon' call it sacrilege. I freed myself, broke the whole matrix on accident. I run the block with that thing on hip, call me Saxon Fifth. Early stages I would laugh like a pageant kid. If these the last days, then I'm cutting spades with a couple activists. Mastery move and see every trade, I'm a jack of it. Nobody did me wrong, really. Brooklyn and Philly, strong piece of closets and skeletons. My life is like one in a billion. White, sweet, and spicy Cinnabon.
Chicken chili palm affiliated with all the heroes that really ball. What up? What is Soul Snakes? What's good, yo? What's the deal? Welcome to High Billy Season. Applause for that. Applause to you. It is September 18th. September 18th. The month of September is rolling. Honestly, the time is different. Time has been feeling different for me. Maybe time's been feeling different for you too. Let me know in the comments if time has felt different for you in the last several years. But yeah, even more recently for me, for sure. Losing track to the date, months keep rolling by, and it reminds us that time is itself a concept. Time is an attempt to control and understand and create some sort of regularity to this experience. But the truth is that just like feet and inches and seconds and minutes is made up. And what's really happening is the experience. It's the experience that you're experiencing. And you'll experience it differently, yo. It's like time flies when you're having fun, shit like this. Yeah. Gotta get off the time clock. Stop measuring. What up, yo? Another episode. Today I want to talk about something very special. I'm really excited about this episode. We're going to talk about intersectionality. We've talked about it once before, and something happened recently that made me want to cover it again. See if I can cover it even better, maybe in more depth, maybe more succinctly. Last time I attempted intersectionality, I did it on this show, and I did it with the aid of my favorite animation and art program, Blender. 100% free, blender.org. They created this open source, free, ridiculously powerful Swiss Army knife program that can do 2D animation, 3D animation, all kinds of stuff. And I went on and I talked about intersectionality. I'm going to do that again. We're going to go on Blender again today. Before we do, I want to talk about very quickly why it's important. I had a conversation with a friend, a high school friend. We go back and forth. We talk about things sometimes. And we got to the question of, I called him a cis man. And he replied, and we were talking about cis and its meaning and its value as a word. And he didn't like the label. He rejected the label. And he said, that word comes from intersectionality. And intersectionality is this obsession that not everybody cares about, but some people do, and woke people do. And so he dismissed it, and he was like, come on, he doesn't want to be talking woke, you know. He's not cis, and intersectionality is this thing that is his words, a quote. Intersectionality is obsessed with race and obsessed with gender and obsessed with these classifications, and intersectionality insists that those are the most important things about us, that our race and our gender, these identity markers are the most important things about us. That's what he said to me. That's why we couldn't even get into the conversation that we were having. It got stymied because we couldn't agree on language. he dismissed and didn't want to engage with the language I was using because of intersectionality, which he sees as a problem. But as I hit my ears, I'm like, what are you talking about? That is not what intersectionality is. Intersectionality does not insist that those are the most valuable or important or most interesting parts of yourself. Intersectionality is a response to the broader racist and gender specific culture, heteronormative culture, where there are other people insisting that race is the most important thing about you and blocking you in with a pre-existing notion of the social structure based on race and treating you differently based on race. Kimberly Crenshaw created that. She didn't create intersectionality for shits and giggles. She made it up as she made it up as a response. It's a framework, an academic framework for us to, a lens for us to see what's going on in the world. And then further, this is what I wonder if I missed in my first time when I did this. Further, not only is it to help us see our interconnectedness, but the point is for us to respond. We are responding. We can then take our interconnectedness and then become active participants in our world together, in our political world. And I said to him, because this is in part, this person was really distraught about Charlie Kirk. This conversation I'm pointing to happened the day that Charlie Kirk was murdered. And so in this back and forth in my response to him, I'm letting him know intersectionality is an effort to deal with the kinds of things that even Charlie Kirk did. We're having this whole conversation about who Charlie Kirk was. He was this great, brilliant saint type Christian figure who just loved everyone. And then we have all these quotes and video of him saying these racially insensitive, misogynistic, transphobic, Islamophobic things, very aggressive things, willing to push the envelope and speak in offensive terms about these different groups, about queer people and the whole deal. And people are wondering, how do we talk about Charlie Kirk? This is it's a national issue. Donald Trump has taken it up. He's not allowing. They're trying to actively, from the federal government, trying to require that everyone love and appreciate Charlie Kirk, appreciate Charlie Kirk's contribution to the world, and show him a great deal of deference. Get involved in the hagiography, the writing of the saints of his life, as we talk about this sanctified, wonderful person. They even fired Jimmy Kimmel. The president used his leverage with the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, to make ABC and other stations worry about their hosts and have them toe the line. And Jimmy Kimmel made some jokes, not really about Charlie Kirk, but about the president. And he's now been taken off. And the president, Trump, is on Twitter talking about this proudly. I want to say that I don't think Charlie was even, because people are like, he didn't have any hatred in his heart. He was a good man. There was no hatred. He was a good Christian and all this other stuff that manifestly from the videos, he's not. From the reams and hours of content of him being this like political firebrand, you can see that, there's many contradictions to the idea that he was just this kind-hearted, loving, accepting of every one person, But in any case, the question of his hatred in his heart, to me, is a distraction. I don't care about what's in his heart. I actually care about what he did. There are people who might be decent-hearted in some way. They might love cats. They might raise a bunch of stray cats and nurse birds to health and shit like this. But then in another sense, they're very monstrous and do terrible things. That's possible. It's possible for people to be all of that. So the question of was Charlie Kirk full of hatred? I think is a confusion and a waste of time and a diversion from what we should be talking about. He was just an operative. He was a political operative. He was a political activist. He was infused with major money from the Republican Party and the entire, Republican right-wing apparatus And he had an organization called Turning Points, whose goal was to shift the culture and to get young people involved with the Republican Party. And that's what he did. And he did that cleverly through a number of things. First off, they had different conferences and political conferences. He would go straight to campuses and he would host spectacle discussions with students, where he would host and he would challenge people and people could challenge him, and they would have a public, what we might call a debate, or some people might call it debate. But again, that word debate has an old word that means something. And it was a conversation with rules within, where two people were engaging in an effort to win the other over to their side of some sort of perspective way of looking at things. And a big part of debate, beyond the truth of what they're talking about, is the narrative play. The person who has the gravitas and the charisma, someone who's the most eloquent, can win a debate. And Charlie Kirk in his late 30s or mid 30s, or much of his career is in his 20s, late 20s, debating with much younger people. He's super practiced, and this is his thing. Confident, armed with stats that the students themselves can't rebut at the time or fact check. He was an operative. He was an activist. His goal was to get people to the Republican Party. And so what that means is, when you're looking at the racism in his statements, his heart be damned, his internal, emotions and empathy be damned. It was all about, it's a Republican strategy. It is a Republican strategy. It was, and it is a MAGA Republican strategy to attack racial minority groups, attack the gender queer, to undermine women's rights and feminism, and to attack immigrants. And they carried that out, and that's what he did for political expedience. Now, if you take that out and you say that wasn't part of it, well, then it means it was entirely patriot then. It was either or, it was a little bit of both. But I think it's more valuable, frankly, to talk about the financial and career and professional incentives that drove that man, and not just that man, but his other compadres like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Dennis Prager, these other people, these culture warriors who get funding and build organizations for the goal of pulling people to the Republican Party, for the goal of shifting culture towards hating queer people, to the development of this white, heteronormative Christian America. And they tactically did that. Ben Shapiro is more in the journalism space, but they're twins, essentially. They come at it differently. Ben Shapiro's a complete Zionist kook, Jewish supremacist. Charlie Kirk, less so. In fact, it seems that the last few weeks or months of his life, he was struggling with this genocide. He was struggling with the fact that he had spent the last year and a half regurgitating the Israeli talking points, the Republican MAGA talking points handed down to him by the Trump and the administration. And he was in that circle. He was plugged in, and he started to have misgivings with the whole thing. He had challenges with Israel's efforts to bomb Iran a couple months ago, and he was voicing that. He was starting to ask questions. But he asked them very subtly. He wasn't off script, incredibly so. And the damage had been done. We're almost 2 years into a full-blown genocide, as has been documented and has been stated now by everyone with a brain and every expert. Okay? So what do we do in a world where not only are there hateful people, there are hateful people who just are taught silly things and have hate in their heart. That's a real thing. But then there are other people, let's say Charlie Kirk and others, who are just doing their jobs. And the one half of the elite political party machines in this government, in America, the Republican Party is committed to using these identity points to separate and win in the political arena, and to create division. What do we do? Well, I guess when they attack queer people in the numerous ways that they do, most recently with that shooting where I think a trans person was a shooter, they came up with some sort of a goal. They're trying to figure out how to make sure trans people don't get guns. The talking point and the headline is that there's something, trans people are not equipped to have guns. So the same gun people who believe that there should be no restrictions on guns, or very little to no restrictions on guns, on this measure, they're all for it, right? Because you have this political benefit of shitting on trans people. And at that moment, trans people could handle it alone, And then over here, when they attack the Smithsonian museums and they say that we need to change the Smithsonian museums and remove history, remove artifacts, and remove narratives that demonstrate just how brutal and ubiquitous and brutal and the collaborative effort that it took for not just slavery, but for Jim Crow in the South, post-Reconstruction, like the ways that white people reposition themselves to continue to oppress black people and to stifle the freed Africans and their ability to engage in the American dream. Stifle that, recreate history, spin it differently, make something that we can be proud of. People are too critical of the United States, they think, Let's get rid of that. Let's erase the ugly parts of American history, particularly as it pertains to how they were treating black people. When he does that, so how should we respond to that? Oh, maybe the black people should get together and be mad about that. They should write something about that, or protest, or whatever legal avenues are available to us. We should go through that. And then when some members of the Republican Party float the idea of removing voting rights from women, when they do more than floating, they want to reverse the reproductive rights and autonomy that women have fought for. They want to reverse that. What should happen there? Well, I guess women should speak up then, that's their thing when that happens. Particularly those of reproductive age, they should figure that out alone, the men shouldn't be involved, right? Well, no, that those being attacked by a powerful central entity like the US government, and then having these separate groups fight back separately, won't have the effect that we need. The groups individually, separately, are weaker. They're smaller in number. Some groups are so small they can be ignored, like trans people. Trans people are a super small part of our society, tiny percentage. Trans identified at least. Intersectionality says that we recognize that we're connected. And so I don't have to be trans, I don't have to be non-binary to understand the oppression happening there, and I don't have to be in that identity group to support and to stand up and to use my voice and to fight back. And I don't have to be a woman when reproductive rights are being attacked. And if Black history, which is American history, is being rewritten, white people don't have to be Black to care about that. You can care about reality. You can care about our shared reality. And you can own up to reality and to history, which are all important for us to understand the present. And so that's what intersectionality does. It was Kimberly Crenshaw attempted to create a framework for us to understand the ways that powerful forces, and in America, white powerful forces, are attacking these separate groups and defining what is the good American citizen, and that these groups can see our common interests in our commonalities and will be larger in number and are involved in protecting ourselves and advancing, our best flourishing and our best possibilities for each other together. That's what intersectionality is. So can you believe that I'm communicating with this guy who's telling me that somehow Kimberly Crenshaw invented this thing that is just like, oh, let's focus on each other's race and gender and nobody cares? No, it's a response. And if you're confused about like the history of the need for that response, I don't know what to tell you, right? There's a whole history there. There's a whole history where you see that it makes sense, right? And if you look at the present, you'll see it. From the very aggressive stuff happening in the White House to like even these functionary, like these activists, like again, Charlie Kirk, what he was, what he did, the reasons he said all those things, just for political benefit, just for shits and giggles, just to get Republicans winning. Why is that the case? Why can't Republicans run on platforms of a good economy and of world peace, or of an educated populace, or even the traditional sort of free market stuff? They can't. They don't have that. All these things are breaking down. The economy is in shambles. The president is himself implicated in the most infamous pedophile ring ever. So how do you get people, how do you get reelected after that becomes known, right? You get reelected by, first off, the Democrats fielded some of the worst, most lame and impotent people ever. Joe Biden was should have stood down. So the Democrats actually, in the most important election ever, the Democrats did a poor job and set us up where Trump comes back. But also on his end, for the work that, so the Democrats did that job, great. The Republicans on his end, they have to come up with this stuff. They have to, how do we attack, okay, DEI, get the immigrants, and then we'll take back culture, get these trans, no more men in dresses, get that shit out of here. And that riles the people up. You get Fox News going, you get Turning Points on all the campuses, you get Charlie Kirk touring the country, being this ambassador for that. You get Ben Shapiro and his crowd, you infuse them with money as they create culture off the backs of those groups. Okay? That's the context. In 2025, that's the context. And again, historically, this has been true from the beginning of American history. Now, let's go to my split screen. All right, we in Blender now, and I want to point out that I'm going to try to demonstrate what intersectionality used to sort of look like to me in my head when I would think about intersectionality, okay? So here we are. Got this. Okay. In my mind, intersectionality had something to do with like these strands. So let me do this real quick. I'll get a curve. I'll take a Bezier curve. Where is it? Bezier curve is right here. I'm going to straighten out this curve. R. And I'm going to pull it out this way. I'm going to take the other one, pull it out that way. And then I'm going to go to the curve modifier, and I'm going to give this some geometry, give this some depth. Okay. Okay. So, and then let me split the screen up. Where is my camera? Camera. Oh snap. Alright, here's the camera. So we go GZ. Why can't I go to the camera? Oh, okay. Object mode. There we go. Alright. So we go G. I'm going to pull this down until I can see that line. There we go. Okay. So we're here. And I am going to, I need to do what? I need to take the camera and open the, there we go. All right, so now we can see more. All right, so I did this in the last time I talked about intersectionality, so I'm gonna do it again here, guys, all right? When I thought about intersectionality, when I heard about it and read about it, what it conjured for me visually was this, that we can think of these identity markers as strands, like pieces of string. Pieces of string, okay? So let's say I am a black person. I'm going to turn this color black to identify it. This is a black piece of string, okay? And so if you understand identity, right? Identities are, there's always at least two of an identity, like, meaning they're in opposition to each other. Identities form as in opposition to each other. So let's do that. This will be white. So that's black there, and then I'm going to make it a new one, and this will be white. And the reason it's like that is because I'm in this. Let's make it, there we go. All right. All right, so we have a black identity strand. We have a white identity strand. I'm going to duplicate this. And let's go with this is like being queer. This is being queer. All right, so we're gonna make that purple, okay? And the way I see it, let me hide this for a second. Kimberly Crenshaw wants us to notice how interconnected we are. So right here is an interconnection. I'm gonna put an icosphere here. And I'm gonna make that color, I'm gonna make it yellow or an orange. Let me see if I can make it glow. There we go. All right. Take the tablet. All right, so here's an intersection. This is a white person who is also gay. And the way this works is if you pull this out as far as you can, all of the intersections will eventually collide. All of them will eventually connect with one another. So let's go back to this. Let's actually put him right on that intersection. Let's duplicate this. Put him right on that intersection. Oh my gosh. It's in my eye. Let's flip this different now. Let's go with, let's take this guy, duplicate him. So instead of the race identity, let's go, this is a woman. This is a female identity, or let's go with woman identity, because female is a biological word. Female connotes biology, it implies biology, it points to biology. Woman has to do with identity, has to do with social identity, social framing, how we interact with each other, what we expect from each other. So let's make this for a woman. This will be more, wait, how is this? Here, and then a new one, and let's make it pink. Why not? All right, so that's pink. So let's make this different. Let's make this more purple. Purple, purple. All right, cool. Wow. Okay, here's another node. Let's bring this node over. What's this? This is a black woman. A woman is the pink. Black is the black. And then let's take another node here. And this is a queer woman. Okay? Let's take another node here. This is a white woman. All right. So if we have a woman, then we also have men. So let's pull this over. And for men, let's go, keep doing that. Let's go with a hard, dark red, a rich, dark red. And we'll take this node. This is a black man. For the purple and the black, this is a purple and the red. This is a queer man. Do another node down here. This is a white man. Okay? Again, it's like, yo, why are we doing this, Billy? Why do you care so much? Again, the dude I was talking to says, this is an absurd, effort. What are we doing all this for? This is, you think these things matter? You think these distinctions matter? Yeah, they sort of matter. You think these things are the most important things about us? No. Unfortunately, there's a political machine called the Republican Party, and there's a history of people in power using these differences and setting us up for division. The goal is for us to understand that these strands don't exist, separately. If I'm a black man right here, that I don't just sit here in the world alone, or that I'm not just black. I can't think of myself as this singular strand, as a black strand. I can't think of myself as just a man strand. No, I'm cancel. I am both of these things. And more, right? We can keep going. We can start to keep thinking about other things in the social space. But note that the ones that we do think about, these are the frameworks that we've inherited. Kimberly Crenshaw did not create these. We've inherited a political system, a social discourse, a history where these were how we categorized ourselves and separated ourselves. Kimberly Crenshaw asked us to remember that we're all together. It's all one thing, actually. It's all connected. And this is sort of a crude picture of our social condition. This is incomplete. There are many other ways that we could think about ourselves and do this even further. If this is a gay person, and note what I'm doing here with the parallels, right? A black person conceptually, because these are all concepts, by the way. Race is all made up. Queerness is even made up. The man and woman, the social construct of man and women are made up. But as a concept, black race seems to be opposite to white. That's how it's been set up. Man seems to be opposite to woman, and queer is here. So let's go parallel with straight. This is straight. So what does straight look like? What color will we give straight? Let's give straight the color green. Light green. Let's do some more nodes here. So this is a straight pink. So straight woman on that node. This is a straight white person on that node. We go here. Whoop. Let's delete that. Let's take this node. Let's bring that over. This is a straight man. Visually, conceptually. We can keep going. We can keep coming up with stuff. Let's go with let's go religions. I don't know. I don't want to go. See, this is identities too, so I guess it should count. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's go with a this way, and let's go with Christian here. Okay. Christian. Let's make Christian. Did it again. Going to make that different, and then we go up, and then we go yellow. Okay. So the Christian person, which is the yellow line for our concept here, this is a Christian man. This is a purple, so a Christian queer person. And this is a Christian woman. What was green again? Oh, Christian straight person. Again, if we keep this going, Christian white person. Go up here. Christian black person. Okay? Boom. What else? Now what if, again, well, let me keep going actually. Like I said, with the parallels, these are conceptually parallel. They're not parallel. In other words, they would cross too. So what I mean when I'm challenging this parallel thing, I'm making them parallel because conceptually black and white are parallel opposites. They will never cross, right? There is no black and white person in it conceptually. When of course we know that there are tons of black and white people. It's the concept, the social concept and the identity itself is made up. But the framework for it in our political space sets them up as opposites. Same with man and woman. These notions of the man, of the builder and the muscular, aggressive type, all the things that we heap on the man construction, the assumptions about manhood. Womanhood has the opposite. She's submissive and quiet and domesticated and doesn't exhibit the traits of the manhood. But that's not true, obviously. You know that, right? But, okay. The point is, if I'm thinking of myself as a man, when the president and his lackeys and these activists, these right-wing activists and these clowns come up with laws and social conditions that want to constrict women's behavior, constrict their rights, remove their access to the workplace, remove their access to healthcare, specific healthcare for them because they have a specific condition, specific needs for healthcare, that just because I'm a man, I don't have to think of myself in this framework I don't have to think of myself as a man and say and join in. When Hegseth and Trump and Stephen Miller and these clowns come up with attacks on women's reproductive rights, I don't have to, they will be appealing to men. They will be appealing to men to go, yeah, this makes sense, right? And we don't have to do that. I can join in. When they attack DEI, I'm going to throw that in there, even though I'm not the big champion of DEI. I don't spend much time on this channel. You won't see me spending much time on this channel talking about DEI. There's specific political reasons for that. Obviously, I think DEI kind of focuses and gives benefit primarily to an educated upper class of people, and primarily to women and people with access in a certain way. It doesn't really deal with some of the more working class and poorer people, their needs, which is where a lot of black people are. When they attack Black history, when Charlie Kirk gets on his Twitter video and says that He doesn't believe Juneteenth. It's a fake holiday. You should go to work. Fuck Juneteenth, Charlie Kirk says. When Trump says the Smithsonian Museum needs to get rid of its exhibits on slavery, Intersectionality says, yo, we're all connected in this tapestry. So I'm a white person, let's say. You're a white person, and they're attacking black people's black history and black people's truthful narrative about our history. That you don't have to be a black person to care. You care about the tapestry. You're one. We're intersected. We're connected. Okay? When they attack trans people and try to pretend that trans people are mentally ill, when they try to attack even queer people's like drag shows, you know, there was a period where these clowns were firebombing drag shows, or Donald Trump decides to take over the Kennedy Center and remove the few drag shows on the calendar. I don't have to be queer or gay to see a problem with that. There are people's expression. There are interesting pockets of creative like culture that develops. Some of them I understand directly. Some of it I don't fully understand. It's not my thing. And yet I know that in a free country, those people have a right to it. And I support them, even if I'm not a member of that group. And so again, I don't have to be, I think this is the queer on the purple one. Yes, I don't have to be that on this line to get it. I care about the tapestry, and I care about our interconnectedness. What if we got here? We got yellow is Christian. Let's go here. Let's flip that. Now they don't necessarily need to be, we're talking religions here now, so I'm going to make them less. I'm not going to do like parallel anything. This one's going to be Islam, and let's go, I did it again. Let's change this. Boom. Let's change this to a red, maybe it's a lighter red this time. So, or orange. Just to get all the colors in there. So let's do the nodes again. Here we go. This is, oh boy, it's getting fuzzy here. This is a woman who is Muslim. This is a white person who is Muslim. This is a straight person who is Muslim. This is a man, right, who is Muslim. This is a queer person who is Muslim. We're all connected. And notice again, we can pull this out further. Oh. G like this. Keep that like this. As we pull everything out further, they eventually intersect. That's something to notice too. They eventually all have to intersect at some point. Except perhaps the parallel ones in this visual framework that I've created here. Okay, so do you see how this goes? We could keep going. You know, in the conversation I had with that guy, he wants to suggest that there's so many things that we can care about each other. Why do we care about these things? I want to reply again. The reason this framework exists is because it's a response to the political oppression that each of these groups suffer separately. And the framework offers us an opportunity to see that we're all connected, okay? Now I'm going to transition us a bit into something just a little different because I want to point out what I did in the last time I did this. Pull that out, let's close that. All right, I'm going to hide this for a second. This is our old framework. Now we can keep going. Remember, I can keep going. I can keep thinking about another identity and keep going. I can add more religions. I can add all these identities and nationalities, or not national identities, and keep building this until it's really quite dense. I hope you can see that. And there's nodes everywhere, and it's all. And then again, understanding how complex the human condition is. The complexity of this map is only limited by my imagination and my willingness to look at something. Let's do able-bodied and disabled even. Able-bodied, actually, yeah, let's do that real quick. And then I want to read some of the comments. I think Sheba's got some funny stuff going on. Able-bodied and disabled. What's happening here? Boom, boom, boom. Why isn't this catching? Oh, we're in edit mode. Let's go to object mode. All right, so we're going here. I'm going to pick this guy. I'm going to run out of colors here, to be honest with you. But let's go with a color. Boom. Spin it a little like that. And let's give it a new color. Oh, snap. What's happening here? This is... That one needs to go. Okay, there we go. New color. And this color, let's make it like a light blue. All right, this is able-bodied, okay? Let's start with disabled, actually. This is disabled, okay? Here's a disabled black person, a disabled man, disabled queer person, disabled what? Yellow is Christian. Disabled woman. This is a green is what? Let me say green ones. This was the most recent one. Islam? Yeah, I think that's right. Okay. Disabled Muslim person here, okay? Disabled white person and orange. No. Christian. Yellow is Christian. And so this is a disabled... Holy mackerel, I'm losing it here. Green. You see, and so because I don't have a color code here, I can lose track of like what these things are and all this stuff. And at some point, this is what you see too, you know, what you saw in the last kind of period, in the last kind of years, people were getting really upset at the trans community as they were coming up with all these pronouns. These were people developing language for themselves. You know, it was inside their own group. Inside their own group, they're coming up with language and ways of like categorizing themselves, particularly as queer operates in our society as this side of like, it's an umbrella term. If we're speaking just in terms of sexuality, it's a contrast against straightness, but queer, as queer people use it, doesn't have to do entirely with, you know what I'm saying, sexuality. It speaks more broadly than that. But okay, so that's the queer one or the disabled one, and I come over here. Let's keep that parallel and let's make this able-bodied. Oh boy, able-bodied. So instead of blue, this is gonna be another green, but a darker green. So dark green. Let's get the nodes going. Able-bodied Christian, able-bodied man, able-bodied queer person, able-bodied orange, Muslim, delete, get the node, able-bodied white man, able-bodied light green was straight and queer. I think that's a straight person. So able-bodied straight person. And then we go all the way down here. We got a able-bodied woman. And so what I saw too is like some of these guys, the right wingers, get upset because it's who cares? It's too much. Oh, you're coming up with all these names and all these people. Who cares? Just be. They operate in such a place of privilege. This person in particular happened to be a white guy. Like the privilege is so obvious. They don't even see it. This is why you see this backlash where Charlie Kirk did not deserve to be killed in that monstrous way on a campus with all those cameras and all those people in this public way. It was a terrible thing that happened for the people that had to see that. And yet, when I speak honestly about who the man was and what he did, this friend in particular can't grapple with it. He doesn't realize like what that man was doing actively, consciously, for political purpose. For political purpose, his job was to make sure we take the black people, this black strand here, and we pull it out of the frame. We pull it out of the picture. We don't allow, particularly these white people, this strand, we don't allow them to notice and care about the narratives that these people care about. If you go over and you look closely and you talk to the black people in the strand, you talk to this black woman, you will have a conversation with her and learn a great deal about her humanness and how we're, that's said, and care for her concern. She cares about black history. She cares about her reproductive rights. Charlie Kirk's goal was to make sure we don't care about these people. How about this? Let's do immigrant, non-immigrant, or citizen, non-citizen. Let's do it better. I think it's better that way, just to think about it. All right, this person's a citizen. We're gonna change the color. What are we gonna do for this color? We're gonna make it a richer royal blue. Royal blue. We have a citizen black man. We have a citizen light blue is what? I can't remember what light blue was. We have a citizen Christian. Oh, it was able-bodied, disabled person. This is a citizen who's disabled. This is a citizen who's a Christian. This is a citizen who's a straight person. A citizen who's white. A citizen who's Muslim. A citizen who is whatever this dark green was. Who's disabled or able-bodied. Yeah, disabled here and able-bodied. So the citizen, and then a non-citizen. Someone on an HB2 visa. Someone who's a recent immigrant. Right? Let's change the color on you. And I'm going to take the time to actually do this because I really want to hammer this home. And get it right for the reel too when I make the reel on this. But this is I want to hammer home the point here. For a new color, this is gonna be tough. Let's go with a sort of an off-white. Let's make it more of a gray like that. A gray. Okay. So what do we got here? Disabled non-citizen. Disabled immigrant. Disabled black, no. Immigrant black man. Immigrant Christian. Immigrant Muslim. Immigrant white man. Immigrant, whatever green was. Immigrant, able-bodied person. Okay? Again, Charlie Kirk will say, we'll pull him out of the frame. Don't think about him. Fuck him. He's a terrible person. He's dangerous. He's scary. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to his narrative. Don't have empathy for his condition and his family and the fact that whatever happened to him, he's here. He's part of our tapestry. We don't have to attack him. So what Charlie Kirk and them did, and what Ben Shapiro and them do, is they focus primarily on the white strand and on the women, white people, and then the men. No, just white people, and they create these things and they carve people out. Okay, and by doing that, it weakens the tapestry. It emboldens. Let's actually visually embolden. Charlie Kirk here and them are getting fat. Ben Shapiro. Oh my gosh, 10. All right, let's make it 5. Cool. Let's make it 3. All right, so that's happening, and this guy doesn't even feel it. He doesn't even appreciate what's happening. Meanwhile, all of these other strands are observing. They're developing stronger awareness, while he seems to get less and less awareness. They're aware of all the ways that the government can carve people out and try to diminish their freedom one way or another. Kimberly Crenshaw and Intersectionality aimed to tell us and help us understand that we are all one and we should all care for each other. Even white people. White people are part of this as well. I want to point to, again, this thing I said the other day. I was talking about healthcare, universal healthcare, an obvious sign of a healthy and wealthy society. Well, if it's a sign of a healthy and wealthy society, why doesn't America have it? Why does the United States have it? Why doesn't the US have it? Why does every other wealthy, capable, advanced, quote unquote, nation have it, but the US doesn't? If you speak to some people, they'll say, well, the problem is that we have lots of races. We're not homogeneous. And sometimes that conversation will end right there. People kind of know what that means and kind of move on. But I want to challenge you next time someone says that to ask further, what does that mean? So what if we're not homogeneous? What does that mean? What they mean is that there are elements in our society that will never let this whole tapestry have healthcare. That Fox News, the Daily Wire, and many other outlets, activists like Turning Points USA, if we were to have an effort towards a healthcare system, as Bernie Sanders and other people in our political class sometimes attempt to do, if we had a genuine effort, not the private insurer Obamacare thing, but an actual universal healthcare, the kinds that is enjoyed in Canada, Great Britain, France, Israel, Australia. No, we have a country where Turning Points would make sure they would point to this black person and this black immigrant here, and they would make sure it couldn't happen. They would say, look, this guy is enjoying healthcare. You can't have healthcare. You can't let this man have healthcare. You want your taxpayer dollars paying for his cancer treatment? You want your taxpayer dollars paying for his preventative care for his family? No, you don't want that. And so we don't have it in this country because that's what they do. They attack, they create political arguments to attack these nodes. What if the president of the United States was attacking Islam, just wanted to make gross statements about people who practice Islam? Well, I don't have to be a practitioner, a believer in that faith, to know that that's wrong. I understand that I'm a part of this tapestry and this person is part of the tapestry, and I want to respect their right, and I have to include them. That's what diversity, equity, and inclusion is about. That's what intersectionality is about. Why are there elements in our society that are always engaged in a game of exclusion? Well, that's for a different conversation. Why they're doing that, or who, or what, what we can do about it is that we understand that we are actually intersected. We are all one. Okay? Now I'm going to hide this for a second, and I'm going to bring something over that I've already built. I'll bring that over, and I'm going to make it large so you can see it. Okay. Now, what is this? This is my representation of the exact same thing that I showed you a second ago. Okay? But it's folded over, and I'm approaching it in a slightly different way, and I'm going to tell you the reasons I am. As I told you, this framework which I respect is intersectionality. This visual that I've created is limited by how much time I have to think of and to be creatively aware of all of the identities and all of the ways that these identities are being undermined, and keep building another strand and another strand and another strand until I have this very complex thing that could map out something like our social arrangement. To me, it feels even stronger to look at intersectionality this way, and to notice that here it's the same thing. These are the different strands. I'm not going to be able to do all the different colors here, but each of these lines is a different strand. And if you're looking for nodes, the nodes of the black man, for instance, let's put it right here. All these nodes exist, and we can have the exact same conversation, right? except we do so from this understanding that even as we map certain things, again, I'll put a note here. Wait, A, blah, blah, blah. I'll put a note here, and I'll put a note here. It's bigger than we could ever map. It's fuller, it's more complex. It's the human condition is not dependent on or limited by the different identity markers and the things I can think of. It's also not, the human condition isn't limited by these political machinations either. The human condition is highly complex. It's even more complex than this. I'm simply trying to point us to something like a complex visual frame, but the human condition is all of these things. It's all one thing, and that's what it's trying to remind us. It's trying to remind us that it's all one thing. If we could pull out, if it were possible to look at something and call it all one thing, this is it. Obviously, it's not possible, right? Because here's a camera. This camera seems to be outside. You can't look outside of the thing that is all one thing. In reality, the camera would have to be inside the thing. And so we don't have the capacity to look outside the thing. But here in our framework, we can. This is one thing. This is everything. This is our social condition on this globe, on this floating rock on Earth. Each of us is in here somewhere in this blob. Let me see. Let's add a wave function, and let's change the height down to 0.3. The width. Let's see if I do 1.6, and height even lower, 0.2. All right, so this is us. This is the full thing. It's like a heart beating. It's pumping up and down, and it's all a cohesive truth about us. In spite of what Charlie Kirk said, Black women are vital and very intelligent and fully capable, and brilliant minds, brilliant hearts, brilliant efforts come from Black women. Valuable work here. In spite of that Christian pastor, forget that dude's name. You know, he says that women are what other humans come out of, and that's all they are. He doesn't want them in the political space. He doesn't want them working. That's a false framework, but he's a famous and influential person. His goal is to have policy meet his absurd misogynist framework. He wants to curtail women's freedom, reproductive freedom, their freedom to engage in commerce and all of that stuff, and in employment. And it will be up to us, it will be up to men to not fall for the shit when he makes that case, to look at each other and understand. Look at our wives, look at our sisters, look at our daughters, our mothers and our aunts and our grandmothers, and notice that they have every single aspiration and every single capability that we do. And I don't have to be a woman to care to stand for them. And in the future, let's keep this bouncing for a second. If the future president, or in the next year, if it gets so weird, Donald Trump he's really going for it. He's really trying to carve out, like it does, like again, I didn't pick race as an important node on this, a noteworthy node on this model. You know, the slave owners did. The people who manifested and carried out and enforced Jim Crow did. They insisted on it as an important way to separate us. And so now we're going to use that language, that concept of race, which is now inextricably, which is now part of us as in America. It's not us that did. It's not Kimberly Crenshaw. We're going to use it and then actually unify and remind ourselves that being black is simply the opposite or the other side of being white. It points to something frivolous about melanin in the skin, and it doesn't tell us a great deal of anything else. And that we have to stand for each other. And why is it important? Why is it, we're just making up this stuff? No, it's very important because this is what they do. This is what Charlie Kirk did for a living. This is what Ben Shapiro wants to take up and continue doing. This is what Fox News does every day. They write stories and narratives with the intention of separating us, not letting us see that we are one, trying to make sure that we hold divisive and untrue and conflicting narratives about ourselves and each other. So I'm very grateful for Kimberly Crenshaw for her work, and I defend it. I think it's valuable, and I'm going to send this to that friend to make sure that he can watch this and potentially learn something. Now I'm going to put these two side by side, I guess. Yeah, let's pull this over. Again, you can see it, right? If we take this and we were able to just kind of fold the edges of it over, you fold it around into a globe and you'd have this. You'd have the globe that you have over here. All right, let's keep that bouncing. Let's go to the comments. Sheba says, maybe he's actually a trans man, so he was offended that you assumed he was cis. Possible. He should have made his goal to stay alive. Maybe then he would have been better at it. That's I think we're talking about Kirk there. By the time he had misgivings, he had already sealed his fate and it was too late. LOL, cis men saying anyone else doesn't have the mental capacity to carry guns. Absurd. Exactly. The gun and murder rate is overwhelmingly cis men, but they make up whatever stories they want. See, the people in power who have control of the narratives, who have control of the microphone, control of the cameras, they make up whatever you want. Right? The left and the Antifa and blah blah blah, and this is and anti-Semitic, and they just label it and they parse this out. You don't speak about that, but you can speak about this. You can make fun of them. You can, Greg Gutfeld can get on Fox News and say that we should involuntarily euthanize homeless people. That's just another identity we could put here. We could put the homeless people or the unhoused and versus the wealthy or the housed. We do poor versus wealthy. We can do all of this stuff and come up with all these strands. Or like I said, we can just trust that it's all in here. Right? We can just zoom into this and trust that I don't have to name all of them. It's all in here. We're all one. We really have to support each other. We can't let stupid racist idiots, clowns, who tell themselves that they're logical, but they're highly emotional and backwards. You can't let them say, okay, well, let's involuntarily euthanize homeless people. You can't let them do that just because you have a house. We're all one. And that's what intersectionality does for us. So next time someone tells you that there's something wrong with intersectionality or that it's not, or that it's something that it isn't, they come up with some nonsense, teach them something and help them out. It's not just academic, actually. It's not just a bunch of hoity-toity thoughts and ideas. It will be necessary for us to deal with this fascist government. It's so fascist, they're angry when you point and put a mirror right up to them and say, hey, by the way, why was the Turning Point guy so racist and misogynist? Why are there so many clips of him being proudly, boastfully, aggressively racist and misogynist and xenophobic and trans and queerphobic and Islamophobic? Oh, it was just a political strategy? Oh, that's what y'all do? Okay. Well, great, got you into the White House twice, huh? Wow, congrats. Well, we're not just gonna sit here and just have to just eat shit while you guys come up with that shit and fuck us over, right? No. We're all one. And we're standing up for homeless people, for particularly the people who are at the bottom rung, the people who are being left behind. While Turning Points stands for white, cis, Christians, heteronormative Christians, American citizens who are white, that's his gold standard. Those are the people who are the most protected. And men who have the free reign to live life and like attack this thing called capitalism and go out there and do whatever you can, make as much money as you can, and figure out life and find happiness and do whatever. That's the purview of white men. We say no, we're all one, and fuck you for that. So that's intersectionality. That's why it's important. That's why it was important when Kimberly Crenshaw made it up and developed it. And that's why it continues to be important. Very practically important today. Alright? Applause for that. Uh-oh. Where's my applause? Thank you. That's it, y'all. I think we did. I wasn't sure how that would go, but that worked out. Hey! Yeah, yo. Come on now. Alright? We out here. That's how I see it. This is all made up. It's all about love. It's all about accepting. I don't know how you can be a faith-based, someone who considers themselves faithful to a notion of God without understanding that we're all one. Well, I do understand how that happens. It's just these stories. It's narratives. Narratives. Words. They frame our seeing. They frame our ability to see. Yeah. But we're getting better, and I think it's important to make the narratives better. And all I'm doing, by the way, is making the narratives comport better with reality. That we're all one. We're making the narratives comport better with what is God. It's all one. That's how I see it. Peace.
You gon' have to deal with me eventually. I've been moving the crowd since 17. Bones in my pedigree. I don't do money chasing a cheddar fiend. My chips be coming in quite steadily. I just let it be. Kick my feet up, lay on the roof like peanuts. It was written, now I'm the receiver of the gifts ahead of me. I better see not one of you clowns talking neither. Somebody gassed you for no reason. You need a better team. Maverick. They like Billy, chill, you too passionate. Your verses hit like church and purpose immaculate. Man carry his cross too well, they gon' call it sacrilege. I freed myself, broke the whole matrix on accident. I run the block with that thing on hip, call me Saxon Fifth. Early stages I would laugh like a pageant kid. If these the last days, then I'm cutting spades with a couple activists. Mastery moving, see every trade, I'm a jack of it. Nobody did me wrong, really. Brooklyn and Philly, strong piece of closets and skeletons. My life is like one in a billion. Wife sweet and spicy Cinnabon, chicken chili palm. Affiliated with all the heroes that really ball. All states, some of y'all cap with a small cape, thinking you cutting grass, but it's all snakes. They come in all shapes. I grab a clown by his face, beat him down till his jaw breaks. Stop lying. Yeah. dummy. I could give a fuck what the law states. I indict the president, his cabinet, Supreme Court in a court case. Subpoena the media, I got they whole list on a PDF. Let the people react to these lost tapes. No breaks, who had the game tap locked in a crossface? Real rap renaissance for the Lord's sakes. What you expected, I'm fully vested like Park Place. My movement rooted way pricier than them bored apes. Look.